Trying to clear all the mess up now from the RS485 Saga. At one point, the Arduino that was controlling the 4 servos that are on this board just went crazy and sent crazy values through the PWM cable, and the servos just went into positions they should never have gone into. This one's a prime example. It should be down inside this little arm here, and it should really only go as far as the motor on this side and equivalent on that side, and it's gone all the way up to the top and broken out of its arm. The others are all pretty much the same. There's one here that's way out of where it should be, and the one over there I think just ended up falling off. This one as well, I've already taken the arm off this one. So for the 3 of them, the 4 I suppose, because I'm going to have to do the other one as well, I need to get the arm off, get the mount arm off, then get the servo arm set to center again, then mount it all again, and then I'm going to have to take, like I've done with this one, I'm going to have to take the wire out as well. So once that's all done, I'm going to have to get the wire back through the turnouts again. It's not as bad as it could be, because I've managed to tip the board up, so at least I'm not crawling around underneath. Although there are many reasons why it's easier to flip a board like this and work on the underside without having to crawl under the baseboard, one disadvantage is light. When you're under the baseboard, the light tends to be higher up, and it makes it easier to see the little hole in the points. It's much more difficult to see when it's dark underneath, but I do have a floodlight, a kind of LED mini floodlight that I bought when I first started doing the loft, before there were any lights or anything, and I found if I stick it underneath the baseboard, shining up towards this one, it really lights up the hole in the blade really well. So I'll do that now, so that the difference is obvious. And now with that floodlight underneath and shining up behind, there's a much more clear hole to aim for when I'm trying to get the piano wire through. So that's these 4 sets of points finally back in position again, and now all the motors are working. I ended up with one incredibly noisy one and one that failed, so I've swapped those 2 out while I had it upside down, and there are now trains running comfortably over it, and the relays are working again after I rewired them and fixed an issue in the software as well. So apart from uploading the node 2 sketch to node 2 behind me, just so that the bugs get ironed out of that one too, that's electronics done for now, which I'm pleased about. So next is the tape measure back out and start measuring up for baseboards to bring the lower deck around to here, so I can then start laying down yard points and storage lines on this side. When consists go wrong. Back onto baseboards this morning then, and believe it or not, that was once a baseboard, is now a table. That's going to have to get cleared because I want track coming down there and heading off in that direction towards the yards. So I need to start again from here. So this is where it's coming off the incline. There'll be 2 tracks here, there'll be another one along there, but I haven't got the turnouts yet to do the swap, which will happen about there. So I need to fill that gap. There'll be 3rd and 4th radius curves coming down on here, and then this will run as narrow as it can on the near side where the tape is, to allow for a turnout over on that side on the upper deck, and then curve out there and into where I'm starting to plan where all the turnouts will be to create lines for the yard. I think I've got a few scenic ideas. I was going to start minimally here and just pull enough or lay enough baseboard to cover the curves, which actually, because it's going to go narrow, need to use a lot of this space anyway. It would probably have had to have been near side of the pink and purple cables anyway. So I think I'm just going to go full 80 centimeters and cover this section with baseboard, because I think that gives me a few scenic opportunities as well that I'm starting to think of. As the upper deck comes along here, it'll be the start of a station. Once it hits about this support here, it'll be spreading out lots of sets of points so that there's a few lines heading into a station, raised and sort of spreading above that lower deck line. So time to get the saw out again. And over at the other end, I've got this gap to fill before I can get to the corner. On this end, it's going to run down the outside of this truss, so I'll just need to screw a little bit of same width, maybe 12 centimeter baseboard to that outside support, and then it'll head off down there. Okay, and that leaves this, which is the actual end of the layout, that leaves this area for all of the turnouts and point work that's going to be coming down here. And with reluctance, I'm going to have to clear my daughter's beautiful scenic contribution from this end so I can get some more baseboard and track down. Baseboards are linked now down this end. All those little holes in the baseboard don't really matter, they'll be covered up, they won't really be visible in the end. Similarly here, it's not quite a match on width, but it'll be covered up anyway by upper deck, so the very stark square transitions really don't matter. They'll be covered up by nicely jigsawed curved track, and I must have measured that previously because it's fit too well to be I don't get that kind of look, but there's comfortably now enough baseboard to get just to the other side of the truss, so I now need to cut the little shelf bit that's going to run along towards the other end. And similarly on this side, I've now got a link going off to where it'll head off down just where that tablet is, or even close to the truss on this side. It's very ropey and scrappy recycled baseboard, but again, it's going to be covered up, so I might put something under that hole on the underside just so stuff doesn't fall through, but it won't be visible anyway. The upper deck will come across here, across the middle really, where the two baseboards, well, it'll take quite a lot of space because it's going to space out into a station, so there won't be much space left on this side, but what there is will be scenic, maybe road or something like that running along the near side of the station, and maybe a road bridge going underneath it as well, I quite fancy. And on the other side, I've had these baseboards cut for a while because the bit of baseboard that came out for the incline support came off these boards, so they were always going to sit nicely alongside it. They're just in temporarily at the minute, so I get a feel I still can't use these feet near side because I want as much space as I possibly can to run storage lines, and so I'm thinking there's a thin piece of ply down there. It's just going to be thin ply supporting the near side and a few of those black feet underneath where the space doesn't matter. Now there's a bit more baseboard down, I've just laid a bit of track temporarily to get a feel for how it's going to go. I remembered I had a couple of sets of large radius points that I hadn't used. I was planning on using medium radius points there, but I didn't have any, which means I was going to have to buy 4 sets if I was going to do the other end as well. And I remembered I had a couple of large radius ones, and really I think if I don't use them here I probably won't get to use them anywhere else in the layout because you need so much space for a couple of sets of large radius points. And I'm trying to keep the radius as small as I can at this bit because this is where anything on the inside line here is going to go across there and then go across there to go up the hill, so I want it to have as good a start to its journey up the hill as it possibly can, so large radius points are going to help in that sense. And yeah, they seem to fit perfectly. So I've only got 2 sets, but that's given me enough to do for a while. I think I'll get them set up. This red board here can come out at this point. So again, I'll just take the board up and do all the motors upside down. Laying them like that, there's enough, obviously there's plenty of clearance there for a point motor. Dropper wires are going to be easy to drop. Those two V's are comfortably either side of the support. I'll just have to be a bit tactical about where I put dropper wires on that joining piece in between the two turnouts. Have to be very much this side of the bit of track. So over this end I've now screwed a couple of cross beams in, cross supports, so that I can run a narrow piece of baseboard for the lower deck kind of along there. The upper deck is going to come out to about here, but I want them to overlap because this is quite an opportunity, I think, with the two levels interacting for a bit of scenic work, like a bridge, the lower deck going underneath the upper deck there and probably going underneath it again up there. So I want plenty of overlap between the two sets of baseboards for the upper level and lower level, so that I can do something vertical between them. The only stipulation, I guess, with the lower baseboard, which is why I've got those set of points that have fallen apart, but as long as the baseboard for the lower deck finishes along here, giving me access to the point motors for those two when they're up on the upper deck. So the two sides are starting to edge towards each other over at this end. Everything's balanced at the minute, because if I put it where it would go, it would just fall off. So that board will go the other side of the truss, and it'll need to be screwed on. It will overhang quite a bit, but it'll be quite easy to put a few supports in as I go along. And then this plank here is going to go over there and overhang there again by the same 13 centimeters that is, so that they can meet, because there may well be a bit of track coming through that gap there. I've marked this up. I was going to jigsaw it so that because it needs to slice around that support and overhang by 13 centimeters, so it can meet, or at least I'll only need a little bit of fill-in baseboard for the two to meet once it's there. But I think maybe the easiest way to do it will just be to take that support out, slide the whole board underneath, and then cut a new support 12 millimeters shorter than that one, to just sit on top of this board. I'm still thinking about this one. This is roughly how it's going to be. Obviously they're going to arrive spaced out there because there's going to be a lot of storage lines down that side. I'm now wondering, this needs so little baseboard, this R3. That's about where it's going to start, and obviously once it's on that board it's away. And if I end up cutting something that's going to cut that out, run down the back of there, and then support it long enough, and then run all the way over here to here, and then back again, that's a lot of baseboard. And also I need to keep as much, there's going to be a lot of point work on the upper deck around here, so I need to keep as much of it free as possible. So what I'm thinking, like I did at the other end, and I'll try and film that as well, I might bring another support beam from that truss alongside this one down here, and then just overrun it to about here, because then all I need to do is just cut a tiny bit of baseboard out, because if I've got those two supports either side of there, for the amount of space it's going to run, I can just have that little square screwed, 4 screws, 2 on there, 2 on 1 here, and it's got the support it needs, and I'm still leaving the vast majority of this space open for the upper deck. I've ended up making quite a lot more progress today than I ever thought I would. I think I didn't really have much of a plan for today, but just setting a few little bits of track up down there gave me a bit of direction and impetus, and I've got, quite unbelievably to me at least, I've got all of the baseboard down now for the lower deck. Over here is the first corner. This is where the incline has linked to the lower level. All this track is still temporary. They're not, those points aren't cabled in or even stuck down yet. This is the corner where the lower deck will actually go off the edge of the layout effectively, leaving the gap between those two supports there for all of the turnouts and stuff that's going to go on in preparation for the station on the upper deck, which will be down here. that's a third radius inside curve there, just down again for placement, just so that I know I'm along the right lines. And here there'll be an R4 turn on the outside of that one when I've got enough track, and this is where the track comes along across to the other side, and here I need a little bit of a filler, just there, just a little block to fill that gap in, or there's actually an isolated little filler piece there, so I might just remove that with a longer one so that it sits nicely across two beams. But apart from that, that's looking good. And then this currently R4 fourth radius curve on the outside there, that might end up being a bit wider. It might want to go a bit deeper, which I'll explain when I get to the other side. But definitely the third radius coming from the inside there needs to be as narrow and shallow as possible to link up with the end of the storage lines coming from this side. And down at this side, this is where we're coming narrow down this end of the layout. There's the gap for the for the point motors effectively, so there'll be a set of points above there, which is why there's no lower deck baseboard. It doesn't need it, but it's a nice, I wanted it to go as deep into here as I could, because it's a nice kind of, I think, opportunity for a bridge and interaction between the two layers. It doesn't look a big gap here, and it isn't, but I can kind of comfortably get a hand through it, and it will be 10 centimeters up as well. 10 centimeters, yeah, 100 millimeters up. So I think it should be comfortable to get to, and I'm quite happy as well with this S bend as it is as well. There's more space for it here than there was on the plan, and I'm happy that there's space for straights in between each corner, so I'm not as worried about this track as I was now. And if I just come over here, they're both going to come out to about the middle of the baseboard for the yard there, and then I think maybe the outside one will come out on a much wider radius. I'd quite like to use these curved points because I've got them from the old layout. And maybe the idea with this one is, and obviously I'll do similarly on the other end, is the line will come into it, the turnout will be for the yard, and the straight on will be the bypass, effectively the line that gets you down to the other end and through. So that will go under this bit of baseboard and run right the length down there and meet something down that end. It might mean I need a bit more baseboard over there, but that's quickly done. And then the yard lines will just spread themselves out here. There'll be something similar. There is another set of curved points buried under that lot somewhere. So I think if it works, I'll try and arrange it so that it works for the inside track as well. But that might also mean that needs to be a slightly wider radius than third. This is just a marker, this upright here. It's a couple of millimeters short of being the perfect height to be a support for the upper deck. And when the station is coming down here, it's actually going to spread over these two lines here, probably not over the incline, obviously, because that's getting taller and that's asking for trouble. But it will certainly cover these two tracks here. So I just need to remind myself to leave a big enough gap between these two tracks so that I can get those narrow supports in to hold this end of the baseboard for the station. I think it's quite hard to envisage, even kind of walking around corner to corner, it's quite hard to explain how it all links together. So I'm going to try putting that cheapy SQ13 on the back of a truck and sending it round the incline and seeing if that gives a more joined up explanation than I can manage of what's going on. If it does, I'll tag it on to the end of this video, and if it doesn't but it still looks okay, I'll probably tag it on anyway.